It's Peggy to the rescue, and I want to answer the question that came in about whether you should get a religious exemption or a medical exemption. Let me tell you my story about one time when I had to get a medical uh, exemption. It's not exactly an exemption, but I had to get an accommodation for a medical scenario that I had. So a few years ago, I actually was blind for several months because I had a detached retina. Let me know in a comment below if that has happened to you. It's actually very scary and it's very serious. And I had to have several surgeries to restore my vision. It's not 100%. And thank you to everyone who points out the typos that I make and all of that. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm grateful for the vision that I have. And what happened is I was teaching at the community college. In fact, I've been a teacher for many, many years at the higher education levels at university and college and also adult ed. And I've done a lot of consulting and training in companies. So teaching, 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 I absolutely love it. So I started this new job a few years ago at the community college, and I noticed that the lights, the fluorescent lights, were really, really bright. And interestingly, about a month after working there, I came down with this spontaneous detached retina. Now, I can't say that I'm blaming it on the fluorescent lights, but I do know that that was a change in my lifestyle that happened. And shortly thereafter, I had the detached retina. And remember, the retina is the part of the eye, at the back of the eye. It's very thin, it's a very thin tissue. And that is the part, those are the cells that actually receive the light and send it to your brain so you can see. Anyway, that retina came down. It's kind of like wallpaper coming off the wall. So I couldn't see. It was completely black. I was completely blind. Yes, it's terrifying, horrifying, but I got through it through prayers and faith and wonderful medical care. So after the surgeries, my eye was very, very sensitive to light. It still is, which is why sometimes you'll see me wearing my sunglasses outside while I'm filming, because I have a very severe sensitivity to light. And when I went back to work, I noticed that the lights were really bothering my eyes. So I asked my immediate supervisor if I could switch classrooms, because another classroom had natural light like this. And I thought it would be great if I could turn off the fluorescent lights and just use the natural light. Well, she said, let me look into that and I'll get back to you. And it turns out it was requested of me to seek an accommodation under the ADA, because I was now considered that I had a medical condition that had to get an accommodation by the school. So the reason why I'm telling you this, and thank you, Lord, for this situation, because now I know what it's like to try to get a medical exemption, try to have your medical or your disability accommodated. I know what it's like firsthand. So they gave me all of the paperwork that I had to take to my doctor. And this was being handled by a special department of the college, which had to do with, in the HR department, and it had to do with the accommodations and dealing with disabled students. Because remember, there are students and employees that might be blind, hard of hearing, have physical disabilities, have mental disabilities. Maybe there were religious exemptions that some of the employees or students were seeking in terms of not going to class on a certain day, and all those things. So this was the Office of Compliance. I can't remember the exact name. What I do remember is the amount of paperwork that they wanted for the medical exemption. I had to pay to go to the doctor, and this is a specialist, all right? This is really, really expensive to go to your eye doctor. It's difficult to even get an appointment. And the things that they were asking, I thought, were very personal. So they wanted my doctor to say, when did this begin? What are the limitations? How do you have evidence of those limitations? How long is this condition expected to last? And that was insinuating that I would have to go back to the doctor, from time to time to make sure to see if my condition had changed. And it's like, this is going to be pricey. This is an invasion of privacy. I didn't want them to know all of that. And besides, how would the eye doctor know about my sensitivity when it's my eyes? I'm the one that's seeing and I'm the one that's experiencing the sensitivity. How would the doctor know about that anyway? So, you know me. There's always another way, and I'm going to find it. There's always another way. And I found it. So I decided I didn't want to go through all those all that hoopla and all that hogwash and jump through all the hoops. And maybe they would have denied it if they would have said, well, it doesn't appear as though your eyes are that sensitive and we don't think the lights are really that bright. I mean, they could have rejected it because it was actually left open to interpretation. And that's the bottom line, that the medical exemptions are open to interpretation of how severe is this? How long is it going to happen? Really, how severe are your limitations and what are the limitations exactly? And how do you know that they're limited? It was just on and on and on. It's like, I don't want to do all of that. So I didn't. And what I did instead is I went to the classroom and I just turned off one of the bank of lights. And I told the students, if it's too dark sitting over there, you sit over here because these lights are going to be turned off. Problem solved, no medical exemption, no accommodation needed. I did it myself. I found another way and it worked. Having said that, having gone through or having been presented with the opportunity to do this medical exemption, and I also realized that it would have given me a label, like a medical disability label. And I just don't like labels. I don't know about you guys. I actually don't like all this paperwork that they're asking us to do. But if this is their playground and we have to play by their rules, then let's do it. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Further, I'm not a medical doctor. So I have many people asking me, Peggy, can you recommend a medical doctor where I can get a medical exemption? And my answer basically is no. I mean, in some months ago, I did have a couple people that I recommended, but the issue is this. Many of these medical professionals are being literally crucified because they are writing these medical exemptions. And what I mean by that is they are having their medical license or their professional license be scrutinized. They are getting visits from the department, their licensing board. And many of these doctors don't want to write these exemptions because they don't want to be pointed out and they don't want to be singled out and they don't want to put their reputation on the line and they don't want to put their license on the line. Remember, these medical professionals have a license from the state. In California, many of these doctors have been literally scrutinized and more. They've been censored, they've been called out, they've been criticized, and many of these doctors just don't want to go through it. So I do not have really the ability to recommend doctors for your medical exemption. So there's that. Now, let's talk about the religious exemption, shall we? Under the heading of the religious exemption also falls something called your own ethical and moral, sincerely held beliefs. So even if you're not religious, and even if you're not Christian, and even if you don't belong to any type of formal religion, you can still seek an exemption under the religious exemption heading and category of the law, even though it's your own sincerely held or morally held, your sincerely held ethical or moral belief. That is recognized by the law. And it has to be recognized by your employer or by your school or by your medical provider. It's highly ironic. And I've heard from people who said, I got a religious exemption from my doctor. And when I went to get my medical care from the doctor who wrote the religious exemption, he wanted me to put on a scam and he wanted to do a test. I mean, it's astonishing to me, you guys. I hear so many of these stories. Now, luckily, I've got many success stories under the religious exemption because it is required by law. Your employer and your school are required to honor your religious exemption unless there is evidence, proof of an undue hardship. And it cannot be a minimal hardship, even if it's a little bit of a hardship, like they have to let everybody clear the room when you walk through. That's not a hardship. That's not a hardship. It's a minimal hardship and it does not stand the test of law. It would have to be an undue hardship. For example, if you said, I want you to build me my own office and I want a chauffeur to drive me from home to work and I want my own air filtration system and I want healthy meals delivered to me so I stay healthy. Well, that's kind of an undue hardship. You're asking for a lot. But if you say, I'm just going to go to work normally, or I'm just going to send my kids to school normally, and I'm not talking K-12, I'm talking about college and university, then there is no undue hardship. The same thing. If you're going for medical care and you have a religious exemption and they say, well, we're not going to do it until you do a test, you say to them, treat me as if my test is positive. They cannot deny your treatment. I have a whole class on medical rights. And I tell you exactly what to do if your doctor is rejecting this and the kinds of complaints that you can make. And I take you through it step by step. Many people have told me it's one of the best classes I teach. The other people told me that the employee rights is the best class that I teach because we go step by step through the law. And if you don't want to invest in one of the classes where I am teaching you one-on-one, please take advantage of all of the hundreds of videos that I have on YouTube, on the public channels. Yes, they're on BitChute and Rumble and everywhere else that you are. But on YouTube, I have them organized by playlists. So you can see all of the videos related to religious exemptions. You can watch all of the videos related to your employer. You can watch all of the videos related to OSHA. You can watch all of the videos related to schools. And I highly recommend binge watching them. And a little trick is you can set the speed a little faster. So instead of just watching it at normal speed, a lot of people watch it at 1.5 or even 2, and then you can get through it a lot quicker. I like to watch the videos myself, even the ones that I've made, because the information that I share in there is extremely important. So I recommend that you seek a religious exemption. The only standard you have for your religious exemption or your sincerely held ethical or moral belief. I know I'm speaking quickly and I'm getting tongue-tied because I want to get all this information out to you. You can seek that, and nothing is required other than you filling out a piece of paper stating what those beliefs are. And if you're not sure how to word it, and if you want our help, we have that at thehealthyamerican.org. So let me give you a quick tour here, and we will take a look at what I've got for you and others. So you go under religious exemptions. Now, sometimes I change the website a little bit and I change the names, but basically what you're looking for is your religious exemption letter. All right. And that's where you're going to go. I have another video for you that you can watch where I explain everything. I highly recommend you watch this. And I also have some testimonials. This is good in all 50 states, even if you don't live in California where I am. And it has all of the information of exactly what you get. So I recommend you go there and study it and read about that. I've got lots of information for you under this page with a name that cannot be said, a word that cannot be said. And I talk all about your businesses and why they are required. They must honor the exemptions. Here's some questions. Can my boss fire me? What about your medical status? What about colleges and universities? More about employers. Can your job require you to wear this if you don't get this? No, they can't. And you have to fight it. You have to fight it with the religious exemption. And I have things about OSHA. Can OSHA make you get the needle? I want you to watch all those videos, friends. The bottom line is you can get a religious exemption for yourself, for your child at the college or university level, for your own needs in terms of getting medical care and so forth. And you get this for the scam. You do not need to cover your face if you have a religious belief that is against that. You do not have to be tested, and you do not need to get the needle. All of these rights are protected by law. We help you at the Healthy American. My husband is a pastor. Even if you don't attend his church, it doesn't matter. And they may even ask you, well, do you attend his church? It doesn't matter. He doesn't say that you attend his church. What he gives you is a 2-page attestation of faith where he explains Christian beliefs, where he explains and gives biblical proof and passages for why you shall not participate in this or in this or in this, because all of that is actually an affront to God. If you are a Christian, if you are a Muslim, if you are a Sikh, if you are a Buddhist, we can help you as well. You can use this as a model and take it to your own religious leader who can model that. And we can also help you because we do have information for those of you that are of the Jewish faith and of the Sikh faith in particular. So I've helped members of those faiths as well. This is not cheating. It is not anything other than honest information. We have done the research for you. We also give you a packet of all of the EEOC information that you can submit to your employer that shows examples of religious accommodations that were required to be honored by these companies. So that's what we provide for you. And you are paying for our time, for our effort, our energy, our resources, and it becomes like a donation to the organization so that we can continue to do this important work. So if anybody questions you about that, I think it's really interesting. In the county where I live, the county of Orange, and there are people that have been submitting these documents, and they are questioning not the documents, but they are questioning the individual, and they don't have a right to do that. So you also will get that information from us. Your employer only has the right to ask reasonable information about your religious beliefs. They cannot scrutinize it. They cannot grill you on it. They cannot make you show that you attended churches and how long you've been. You simply state that these are my beliefs. I have them written down for you. They are constitutionally protected, and you may not violate them. So I'm going to talk in another video about the only way that they could force you to do that. And I think some of you know that because you may have seen it in one of my previous videos, but your employer cannot force you to do any of that. If you do not get the needle, you do not have to do this, and you do not have to do this. And our packet will help you be protected from all of that. Over at thehealthyamerican.org, always at peggyhall.tv if you want the ad-free, censorship-free content. Otherwise, I love seeing you here and on all of the platforms, and also at thehealthyamerican.org.